All righty. Welcome, everyone. Happy Tuesday for another edition of A Place at Home's LinkedIn Live broadcasts. I'm excited to be here. My name is Mitch Benson, and I'm the Franchise Development Manager here at A Place at Home. And I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Jerod Evanich, President and co-founder of A Place at Home. How you doing, Jerod?
I'm doing fantastic, Mitch, and I am glad to be here on this sunny January Tuesday here in Omaha, Nebraska.
Absolutely. You got a little sunshine peeking in.
I can. I don't know if you noticed this, but it's like a beam of light just coming right down on top of me. It's great.
Yeah. You know, I'm really glad because we have this recorded and we can come back to this because we're on hours away from a monster snowstorm. And it's just going to be cloudy, wet, and cold for the next year here in Nebraska. So this is beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, we could get anywhere between like 3 and 14 inches. Who knows?
Very true.
Only time will tell.
Exactly. I mean, geesh, man, with that kind of, gauge, right? It's hard to really even understand what you should prepare for, right? Not unlike turbulent economic headwinds. What are you supposed to invest in? It's hard to say sometimes, Jerod,
It
can't
is.
even prepare. But yeah, and this is part of what we need to talk about today, right? Because we have a lot of folks that come to our Tuesday meetings here where we talk about, business and investing and senior care. And a lot of those folks are seeing, rising prices at the grocery store. They're considering all the news headlines that come out about are we not in recession, things like this, right? And at the same time, they have all of the hallmark motivations of future entrepreneurs, right? I want to provide for my family. I want to do a business that matters, right? I need to get out of my once stable corporate America job that just laid off 17% of their workforce, and I need to find something I can control. I love that. We get to talk to folks like that every day, right? But it can be uncertain now, right? When your meteorologist says it's 2 to 20 inches of snow, what do you even do with that? So I think we can shed some light on that, right? But that's some things I hear from our phone calls, people coming in, some questions about the economic headwinds. What's your take on it, right? What's the kind of economic climate we're in now, and what should we expect as entrepreneurs, in the months or quarters to come?
Yeah, Mitch, I listen to a lot of news podcasts and read some online periodicals, and recession is always a huge topic. Inflation, a huge topic. Consumer goods and those staples in someone's home. Eggs, I think, have increased 200%. Lettuce, a container of lettuce used to cost $3, and now it's upwards of $7 to $9, depending on where you're buying it. So there are so many things that, although we've seen a little bit of ease on inflation, there's still, most economists are pointing towards a recession and a world recession. So I think, ultimately you need to be prepared. I think the focus of the consumers are geared towards not bringing on as much debt, focusing on the staples, with increasing interest rates, trying to tamper the inflation. I don't think we're going to see as many people leveraging debt, or at least, the high interest debt that one used to be a little bit more palatable for investment. So, the job market, the labor market is still on fire. I know we see a lot of layoffs, especially in like tech and some of the bigger businesses. But overall, our unemployment rates are still historically low, and employment wages are historically high. And with those high wages, those things get pushed onto the businesses push it onto the consumer. And what happens is that costs go up. And until that comes down, I think recession is most certainly in our future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it's very, very wise, right? Very wise, leveled and measured look at what's ahead, and we see it all the time. We're very we're in tune with employee wages, right? In what we do here, every business owner is, and given that ours is such a service-focused industry, where we see that a lot, right? And I think when we see all of these things, we still see business ownership happening, right? All the
Absolutely.
online communities we hear, like the new applications for new business, right, across the United States, it's up year over year over year through COVID, right? It's still happening. So what it shares to me is that in it, despite economic headwinds, there are a lot of confident and motivated soon-to-be entrepreneurs that are jumping into the arena and taking on these risks. And what we get to do is help them really understand what they're getting into so that maybe we are carefully considering our investment, maybe more than ever, right? And that's a lot of what I think we're going to get done today. So
Yeah.
ultimately, what's the main question they ask us in so many ways, right? Is okay, non-medical home care franchising, right? Should I invest in that, right? What do you think, Jerod? Should I invest in non-medical home care?
Absolutely. Well, and I mean,
I thought you'd say that,
obviously
you
we're
know?
biased, right?
Yeah,
I mean, of course
yeah.
you should, but there's so many different answers to that because I would not suggest in-home care, senior care, for everyone, right?
Right.
It is a very fulfilling, business. It is something that we often say is recession resilient, obviously pandemic resilient. But just to take one quick step back as to what you were saying, in that in times of recession, in times of people still wanting to take control of their future, may not have some of that certainty that they're going to continue to afford some of those staples because of inflation and because of a potential recession, right? They're going to be more calculated on what kind of risk they're willing to take moving
Mm,
forward. And if they have that entrepreneurial spirit, they want to take it into their own hands. They're going to say what out there is more resilient to a recession. What are those staples out there that no matter what, we're still going to need them? And you know
mhm,
what? Care, healthcare, medicine. I mean, there's so many things that we just can't live without. And it just so happens to be that in-home care are one of those things. People
mhm,
remain to need care. And so therefore, even with a looming recession, I would say absolutely, Mitch.
mhm.
Investment in an in-home non-medical business would be a fantastic way to leverage the risk
Yeah.
and kind of take your future in your own hands.
Yeah. Huge, right? And I love when you say that, like, think of what is the most resilient things you can't live without, right? That really becomes one of the strong points here. And so we've seen time and time again that, senior care in the home is something we can't live without, right? That means that, you should invest in a non-medical home care franchise because it is recession resilient, right? When other demands on consumer spending tend to fall away, what sticks is the investment families are willing to make to care for their aging loved ones, right? And we know this increases. The demand is increasing and it's steady, right? And we have, when you seek more information through our website and our several blogs that we're kind of going through on these Tuesday sessions here, you'll find information about the industry. And what it says is that from 2018 to 2060, right, our population of seniors, those 65 years and older, are going to increase to 93 million individuals, right?
Huge.
93 million individuals will be 65 years old between now and 2060. That'll make up 23% of our US population, right? That
Amazing.
demand is huge. And there's a sentiment here. It's that we need care. And thankfully, I always say this to our candidates, that our loved ones are living longer, right? The period that we can help them is growing longer, which is just such a blessing in and of itself. And we get to be a part of that, right? That demand is there. And it's just because we get more opportunity with a single individual, because those individuals are growing in number anyway, and because that care is something our families just can't live without, we become recession resilient, right? I
Absolutely.
think I think it'll carry through a lot of entrepreneurs in certain times like this, right? Uh, and but that's half the equation, right? Recession resilience is not only just client focus, right? But it's also our employees, the caregiving base that helps with individuals, right? We've noticed a shift from maybe a tighter labor market, maybe last year before, to a loosening of sorts today. Are you feeling that too?
Yeah, well, and obviously the pandemic added to that, right? There
Right.
was a lot of pressure on individuals in, some not wanting to purely be around others, some clients not wanting people to be in their house, government aid helping to make ends meet. And so perhaps, people not needing to work as much, people leaving the workforce to take care of their family, to be home with their family, and early retirement. So absolutely, I mean, there were so many things that kind of came through with the pandemic that there most certainly was a semi labor shortage. However, we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, our applicant percentage from last year to this year, and Mitch, we just went through this in our annual EOS meeting, but it was something like 75% more applications this year to last year, or it might have even been more than that. It was a ridiculous number on just sheer number of people who are putting themselves out there saying, "Hey, I want to work. I want to come back into the workforce. Like it's time." So that most certainly is showing upward trend.
Mhm. I love that. It really is encouraging when we sat in the room back here in our office and looked at that, just looked at the opportunity to connect folks with a heart for care, with a job that's rewarding and flexible. And when we see that number increasing almost 100%, right? Like
Mhm.
75% increase over that is just so humbling, really, that we get to do that, right? So I think that is the kind of the 1-2 punch. When you think of recession resilience, it needs to have that kind of client driver as well as that caregiving based driver when talking about senior care. And we're seeing that here at A Place at Home, right? Uh, and that kind of goes into what we were talking about as like a second big reason why we think this is an industry to invest in, right? And it's different from other industries, right? And that's because home care franchises are ultra scalable, right? And I learned this concept from you, right? Saying like, hey, think of all these examples here to show scalability. And I was seeing you over there not only sharing these examples, but also like proving it with data and saying, dude, here it is. So like when I think scalable, right, I think of, truth be told, world domination, right? I'll have
Mhm.
businesses all over the place, right? Is that what we're talking about here? Or what do we mean by scalability in non-medical home care?
I mean, world domination is a good place to start.
Yep.
However,
Yeah.
maybe not quite attainable right away. But really, you don't need the whole world. You don't need the whole world to have one heck of a scalable in-home care business. In fact, our locations that we currently are offering have roughly 40,000 senior markets, so
Mhm.
65 and older
Yeah.
markets. And as you had mentioned earlier, that's going to increase to 93 million, or 23% of the population, right? So
Mhm.
basically, almost 25% of the United States is going to potentially need care over the next 30 years. And those are massive numbers. Those are massive numbers. When we're looking at an individual market of 40,000 seniors, um, I often like to put it in terms that are a little bit more common. All right. So what does that mean? If I
Mhm.
want to scale a business in senior care, how many clients do I need of those 40,000? Like what makes sense? How much market share? Like all the time I hear it's competitive and there's other home care businesses out there. How am I going to get my piece of that pie? And realistically, you don't need that many clients to have one heck of a scalable large business. With the increase of seniors coming, even a current business just with natural growth in the senior care market is going to hit some pretty exponential
Mhm.
strides here in these next few years. But bringing it down to some common numbers,
Hmm.
I was just crunching some information. Wanted to be able to throw out some cool stats here before for this conversation. But I was looking at an example of one of our owners, and currently, they have over 60 clients, and they're annualized to do over a couple $1 million in sales. It's going to be one heck of a year for them. But I'm like, man, what does that mean for a market of 40,000 seniors? Well, let's bring it down into some normal terms. That means
Mm,
a 2 million revenue producing business needs about 50 clients.
mm,
50 clients to generate about 2 million in revenue,
mhm.
right? That is
Huge.
a just tiny little fraction
Yeah.
of that market. In fact, it is 0.14%. 0.14% of market share you need to have a roughly $2 million company, right? So
Yeah.
again, this is one example of one location, right? And we have locations who actually generate higher revenue numbers per client
Mm,
and have larger clients, and we have some that have shorter hours, smaller, in terms of client, hours
yeah.
and weekly, monthly revenue. Smaller clients that would
Mhm.
increase those numbers, but generally speaking, I mean, that is a very, very small piece of that market share to have one heck of a business.
Yeah.
And also, Mitch, we are talking about employees and the employees, how many employees it may take, right?
Mhm.
And not too many more employees than the clients to have this, multi-million dollar company at,
Mhm.
utilizing some of these same numbers, maybe 60 or less caregivers to be able to generate these kind of sales.
Yeah. That's such a eye-opening data set to consider, right? Because with the world domination thing is not unlike what we hear, because I hear folks say, okay, scalable is because it's so inventory light, because there isn't capital expenditures that we really need to consider, then you just need all the people in your market to build this business. You're on the right track with that, right?
Mhm.
You need a good amount. And that good amount is, like you say, 0.14% of our
Right.
single unit territory size to make it a seven-figure business, a $2 million business. That's what we're seeing, right? And so when we see these numbers, it tends not to be the whole world. It tends to be a realistic thing. You could, as a business owner, be familiar with most all of those clients, right? You could know who they are. You've definitely done probably their initial consultation and
Yeah.
have built relationships with their families, right? That's a manageable number. That's an achievable market share that you can see. And so when it's achievable, when it's this tiny sliver of piece of the pie of everything you see, I start to think of conversations about competition and oversaturation in the market. I'm like, man, I don't think so. If there's 100 companies in the market that all have 0.14%, right, there's still a lot of opportunity left on the table, right? That's what we get to do here. And
Yeah.
that opportunity just matters a little bit more because that's a real person who needs our help, right?
Right.
And it can be done. It's manageable. It's not the whole world. It's your corner of it, and the impact you get to make is well within grasp for every entrepreneur on this phone call, right? They're all here.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
You know, Mitch, also when we talk about scalability, something that most certainly comes to mind is that many businesses, they have a capacity, right? There's a
Mhm.
hair salon has so many booths or so many seats that they can have, and only so many people at a given time to where they're going to hit a capacity.
Yeah.
Assisted livings, for example, there's only so many rooms, there's only so much they can have. Once they hit 100% occupancy, it's hard to grow that versus just a simple increase in rates. And so many other businesses to where if you do want to scale, you need multiple locations in order to do that. But with such little market share, having major growth potential in just that small little box, you don't have to have multiple locations and offices to do this. The potential is right there. Now, that's not to say that you don't increase your potential, your brand awareness, and your visibility in your market should you have an additional location, as well as access to other caregivers. So there are also a lot of benefits and kind of a strategic part of having multiple territories, right? So
Mhm.
that could also be a fantastic growth strategy. But just knowing that, gosh, 50 clients, if you were to have that, and even just with the natural growth rate of our senior population, right? That if you can get those 50 clients today, naturally you're going to have upwards of 60, 70, 75, 85 clients here in the next 5 years just by simply maintaining 0.14% of your market share.
Right, right. Huge, right? That's de facto growth. That's so long as we're attentive owners who rely on a strong franchisor in the corporate coaching to be able to get in front of that kind of growing base of individuals, it's going to happen, right? And I love it because in other concepts and other industries and things like that, there's a real strong need to come out the gate with multiple units to break even in a reasonable amount of time, right? You're going to realize a cash flow in less than 12 years if you build 10 of these things, right? Or it's just a really expensive passion project, right? That's like built into it. You have to do this to make the reasonable amount of money given capacity and the astounding initial investment. And that's okay for some folks. Some people are in that camp and they're ready to approach that. There's great returns and great business to be done over there, right? But that's not what we need here. The scalability of what we get to do at a place at home is available to motivated entrepreneurs on day one, right? So that when you think about your hygienic level, right, you need 10 units of X concept to be able to break even at a certain point. You can do that very quickly with a single unit at a place at home. It happens like that, right? So when you start to consider second units or third units, you are all past the hygienic level of doing what you need to do as an entrepreneur. You're starting to really generate, I would say exponential impact in the markets that you serve, as well as the best chance for strong generational wealth in your family and connecting more people to the kind of employment you can offer them. Think of the key managers you're going to put in place over there, right? It's all just exponential impact that you can think of. And we're excited to, specifically here at a place at home, ground zero at a headquarters over here, is rolling that kind of plan out to more and more entrepreneurs who see that and are excited by it, who want to rock and roll in a first unit, but lock down a roadmap to growth. We're excited to get that going this year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Mitch, I'm thinking about the last presentation that you had with Anna and how you discussed some of the differences between in-home care and home health. And when you're looking in general at healthcare and seeing, maybe you're saying to yourself, recession is coming. I've been doing some research. It seems like healthcare is a great place to invest my time, energy, money, and potentially start a business. Then you got to start dissecting it further, because I start thinking about that conversation that the two of you had and some of those very key differentiators that separate us from home health. And although home health is a fantastic service, I know many successful home health companies out there and owners of home health companies out there. But the struggles are more now than ever in home health when you have diminishing pay from the government in order to cover the cost of your business and your services, right? So looking at in-home care, I think something that really stands out in the healthcare industry is the profitability. Would you not agree?
Huge. I would 100% agree. I would 110% agree. That's two high fives way up, right? Because it is, it's, to me, with a strong reason to invest in non-medical home care is because of the profitability, right? And I think that it's a common feeling or understanding that most all healthcare is reimbursed by some form of insurance, right? That's a common thought that most individuals have given their experience with healthcare, right? In extreme circumstances, you're in emergency transport vehicles and you're in a hospital and things like that. In routine examples, you are working through certain benefit providers to see doctors on a regular basis, right? That is typically reimbursed through insurance or through your state or through whatever kind of program is available to you. That's very common for people. But when we start to think of it on the entrepreneur sense and how we can build businesses to help folks in the senior care world, you have more options available to you, right? And the key reason why is because non-medical home care is much more affordable than its medical or skilled care components in the market, right? It's much more affordable than $8,000 a month at an assisted living or something like that, right? It can be done. So When it becomes that much more affordable, literal single digit fractions of some, expenses you could see in the assisted living world, we start to see an opportunity for clients to privately pay for that service, right? Now, what you have is not a reliance on a reimbursement program from the state or from Medicare or from someone else telling you what you're going to get paid for this. You have the opportunity to speak with a candidate themselves, right? With a client, with their family members about what the options are, how you can help them remain independent, right? That's what they can do through this model at a place at home. That is unlike most other concept in the
Mhm.
healthcare space, right? Specifically in senior care too. So when you have more control over that, when you as the entrepreneur are put in the middle of the conversation of what, your services are worth, as opposed to the ceiling caving in on you from, some government agency, you have that chance to control your profitability, right? And I think it's a key driver of success for two reasons. Your clients get to decide what it's worth to them too, right? They get to decide, look, $2, $3 an increase an hour to be sure that I have a strong caregiver and an agency who cares about me or is going to take care of my mom or dad. That could be worth it, right? Not for the least of which the reasons we've talked on this call, given recessionary kind of impacts on consumer behavior, right? That's a big deal to them. But the second biggest reason is you are in the middle, you are in the driver's seat of getting your caregivers paid an adequate wage, right? What they need to do to come into the homes and provide the great work that they're trained to do, right? You're in the middle of that. You get to control it, not just react to what some stroke of the pen decided is going to happen to you. You get to do it for yourself. And that profitability is available, and it's one of the key drivers of success in our brand, and
Right.
what's helping our franchise owners be successful for years to come.
Right. And when you add two things together, one, a business without a ceiling, right? The
Mm,
sky's the limit. Major potential of high revenue is what I'm talking about with not, a fraction of market share. You combine that with profitability, and that's a strong bottom line. That's what we're talking about is some pretty impactful numbers into when you are looking at a recession. You say to yourself, gosh, I can be a part of this market that's going to continue to grow, that's going to have the need, that can have some very substantial returns. I mean, our last year's FTD, we're looking at median net incomes of roughly 15%, right? And we're
mhm.
talking 50 clients can have a $2 million revenue business. I mean, those are some pretty big numbers. Those are nothing to sneeze at. And obviously, we're not even giving examples of some of our largest locations. So
Yeah,
the potential is there. And honestly, though, Mitch, I know we're talking a lot about numbers and cents,
yeah,
which when we're looking at business ownership, we should.
right.
However, one of the number one reasons why I started this business with my business partner Dustin DeStefano, as well as why I'm in this industry, as well as why our owners are in this industry and a part of in-home non-medical care, is because we get to help people. We get to make a difference. We've all had experiences that led us down this path. So, should you invest in home non medical care? I would say that if you are looking for a business with a purpose, if you want to provide a service that'll help people, that'll help caregivers put food on the plates of their family, to make an impact in their community, to hit the pillow at night and feel really good about what you have done, all those things are even that much more reason why you should invest in an in-home non-medical care business,
Mm,
because you get all that. And we hear it from our owners all the time. And also, Mitch,
yeah,
it's something that it takes time, it takes energy.
ah,
It
yeah,
is, it doesn't just, you don't flip on the switch in the morning and lock the keys at the end of the night and call it a day in this
right.
business. But it's rewarding in many ways,
Mhm.
personally, as well as financially.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so glad to hear you say that, and it's just so true, and something that really resonates with all franchise owners here at a place at home, right? That impact we get to make in the lives of our communities is evident and obvious when candidates on this call, on calls with us, speak to franchisees. It's what comes up first is why they get to do this, or their favorite client, or memories they have from the work they get to do and the care staff that gets to carry out the service, right?
Mhm.
And I love how you kind of glance at your story a little bit, right? Because there's so much more to tell in this brand, in what we get to do here, and a lot of what we've discussed today is covered in that same place. It's our website at aplaceathomefranchise.com, right?
That's right.
Where more information that we based our conversation today off of can be found, right? We talk a lot about a lot of things, not only non-medical home care investments, but assisted living franchise investments. And you can go to aplaceathomefranchise.com and look at our blog space, right? Lots of great information for soon to be entrepreneurs to check out, to take a look at, so that you get everything you need when looking at this decision and get prepared to fill out that web form asking, are you
Right.
ready to become an owner, so that we can talk a little bit more in depth about what A Place at Home can do for you. And we're just excited to keep this series going, right? Every Tuesday, we're going to do a lot of information based on
Oh
those
yeah.
blogs so we can get into it, right? But yeah,
Right.
but it's been great talking with Jerod. Here we
This
are,
has
another
been
Tuesday afternoon.
I mean, good thing, good thing you didn't ask me whether or not people should be a part of A Place at Home, let alone the in-home non-medical care franchise. Because well, I could talk to you about that for hours. I think that may be even another, LinkedIn Live in the future. But you get to hear plenty of that and see plenty of that, like Mitch had mentioned, on our website, aplaceathomefranchise.com. So check it out. Mitch, it's been great. Always enjoy our time together here on these live broadcasts.
Yeah.
And I mean, with that, go ahead and take us out.
All righty. Jerry, this has been great. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, viewers. Thanks for everybody joining us here this Tuesday. We'll be back same time, same place, same LinkedIn, same face, right? We're excited to talk more about it, and we will see you guys next week. All right, later.
All right.